1968, the height of the Cold War. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Soviet missile submarine K-129 moves silently through dark waters. And then, nearly 1,900 miles northwest of Hawaii, the sub vanishes, just disappears from radar. To this day, no one really knows what happened to K-129. What we do know is that it carried weapons and intelligence so valuable, the CIA launched one of the wildest, most ambitious recovery and deception operations in history. This, right here, is the true story of the unbelievable Project Azorian. March 8, 1968. Multiple U.S. Navy listening stations pick up something strange. The signals come from the then top-secret SOSUS underwater tracking system, a network specifically designed to track submarines. The Navy suspects the signal came from the pressure wave of an underwater implosion, likely a submarine in distress. They trace it back to a spot 1,800 miles northwest of Hawaii, prime territory for Soviet sub-patrols. Meanwhile, back at a Russian Navy command center, they're noticing something's off. The scheduled check-in from missile sub K-129 never comes in. Immediately, a massive search armada goes out, scouring the area for the missing boat. For 2 months, the Soviets look everywhere. No luck. K-129 is declared lost with all 83 crewmen. On the other side of the world, the American military watches. After the Soviets give up, the U.S. moves in. They refit the USS Halibut, a nuclear sub transformed into a top-secret spy vessel, fitted not with missiles, but with the latest sonar and satellite technology. Now, the Americans close in, narrowing the search area. By July 1968, the USS Halibut departs from Pearl Harbor. For 2 tense months, it scans the seafloor, and finally, it finds something. Crew members drop a cable-controlled robot deep into the abyss, capable of diving much deeper than any manned sub. The remote camera hovers, and there it is, the twisted wreck of K-129, sitting 16,000 feet down on the ocean floor. The Americans realize instantly why the Soviets were so desperate to find this sub. Weapons, technology, codes. Losing it to the Americans would be a nightmare scenario. As word reaches Washington, excitement and urgency explode. President Nixon himself signs off on a clandestine, hair-raising recovery operation. If the Soviets sniff out what's going on, the whole thing could ignite the Cold War all over again, but the chance is just too good. They have to go for it. So begins an audacious plan. The CIA takes charge because the agency is seen as faster, more flexible than the military. The plan? Build a gigantic mechanical claw, one big enough to pluck the K-129 off the seabed, just like a claw machine at a fair. But this isn't about grabbing plush toys. This is about snagging a nuclear-armed missile sub. But how do you build a ship for a mission like this without attracting press? Or, Soviet spies? You come up with a brilliant cover story. Step in Howard Hughes, the reclusive billionaire, aviation pioneer, and, let's face it, eccentric visionary, becomes the face of a masterful piece of misdirection. Hughes, who lives isolated at the top of a luxury Las Vegas hotel, is chosen to pretend he's entering the deep-sea mining business. He creates a fake company, apparently intent on mining the ocean floor for minerals. Officially, the new ship, the Hughes Glomar Explorer, is designed to collect manganese nodules, rock-like lumps supposedly packed with valuable ores. There's even a Hollywood actor pitching the project to the press alongside Hughes, selling the world on the mining fantasy. Behind the scenes, defense contractor Lockheed is secretly commissioned by the CIA to build an enormous steel claw capable of yanking the whole submarine up from the Pacific Trench. No one outside the project realizes what's truly happening. This massive engineering job takes more than 4 years and cost close to $350 million back then, about $1.5 billion today. But the US government sees it as worth every penny. The Glomar Explorer is a technical marvel, 620 feet long, 50,000 tons, with cutting-edge hoisting gear. At its heart is the moon pool, a gigantic opening in the hull for hauling up the sub, all done out of sight. To get the claw down 16,000 feet, the ship carries 600 hollow steel pipes, each 30 feet long, connecting one after another until a continuous line nearly 3 miles long dangles from the ship down to the wreck below. By summer 1974, 6 intense years later, the K-129 has been rusting and breaking apart on the Pacific floor. The Glomar Explorer arrives on site. The crew is in high spirits, convinced that, against all odds, they can actually pull this off. But then trouble. A Soviet spy ship suddenly appears nearby. The tension skyrockets. The ships meet, the Soviets radio over, asking suspicious questions. The Glomar crew sticks to their cover. We're just conducting some deep-sea mining tests. The Soviets eventually back off, but not without taking plenty of photos and notes. With the Soviets gone, it's time. The giant claw starts its agonizingly slow descent. Week after week, with Soviet ships appearing on the horizon, nerves on board are fraying. Finally, sensors on the claw hit the seabed. A week goes by with tests and adjustments. At last, the claw closes on the submarine. Success. The hoist begins slowly, foot by foot, the 2,700-ton wreck rising from its cold, watery grave. But just when it looks like the impossible is happening, disaster. Part of the claw snaps. The wreck tears free. Most of the sub, alongside most of the secrets, falls back down into the abyss. Panic. Years of work, millions of dollars, and a legendary cloak and dagger story for only a fraction of a battered submarine. But the story doesn't end there. Immediately, the CIA begins planning a second attempt. But in February 1975, the whole Azorian operation is blown wide open. The Los Angeles Times breaks the story. Someone had stolen secret files from Howard Hughes' office, linking his mining company to the CIA. The news spreads like wildfire. The world demands answers. The US government delivers one of the most famous non-denial denials in history. We can neither confirm nor deny. That phrase, the Glomar response, becomes a classic used by politicians ever since to dodge uncomfortable questions without outright lying. And with that, Project Azorian dies, and so does the idea of a second recovery attempt. As for what the Americans salvaged, officially only a few torpedoes and some random equipment. No codes, no gadgets. At least that's what the files say. In reality, who knows? What we do know is that among the wreckage, the CIA found the remains of 6 Soviet sailors. Remarkably, they organized a formal burial at sea, filmed the ceremony, and in 1992 handed the footage over to Russian President Boris Yeltsin as a gesture of respect. To this day, most of K-129 remains almost 3 miles deep, hidden in the pitch-black Pacific. The exact location? Still top secret. Project Azorian remains one of the greatest and wildest spy stories of the Cold War.